We are over at the shop making our attack plan. What you see right here is the air shock. If you notice, the end of this is a little bit bigger and that one's a little smaller. We're going to end up slicing it all the way down that end right here so it'll fit right up in here. See how it's a little wider? So we got to actually cut off some of that distance, so we'll trim off of one side so it brings the shock my way. And we'll get rid of this bushing, and we're actually going to use the bushing and rubber out of this original. So it gives me a size to actually go for when I go to shrink it down. The other side, I got to drive this steel bushing out because we don't need it. And we'll be going on the end of this shaft so it'll slide right onto there. So that's going to work out super slick. Be able to get all the movement and everything out of it that we actually want to get. And it's going to come out pretty cool, and I don't have to do many mods. I got to cut the bottom of the shock, reshape a round object. That's not hard. You put a socket in there and you can kind of hammer it around. And then we can press the other bushing back in, and we'll weld up the shock when we actually weld the rod back in. So we'll weld up the end of that shock when we go to put and weld that back in. So then we have that rod in there. So that's what I'm working on today, is starting to get those shocks modified. Got plenty of time. Got some beautiful sunny weather. And it's going to be like 75 degrees today. So those of you that know it snowed on Monday. And it is Friday, and we are in the 70s. It's flip-flop weather. Yes. Who the fuck knows? It's Kansas. It's bipolar weather. So I've got one shock prepped up. So we got the bushing out of there. And then we got this one all cleaned out of there. So now I'm going to start working on sizing that one down for this size and sizing the one down for the other side to fit the bushings out of these chrome ones. Took a minute of fucking time. I might do a short on how to remove the other one. I'm going to take a break. It was not easy and it's not the prettiest, but it works. I just used a drill because it was a 1/2 inch bushing in there, and I just resized out the rubber, but it'll work fucking perfect. So I really want to use that 5/8 rod. That way I get good strength and it goes all the way through, and then we get all that extra beefiness. And then you can see like these shocks aren't even collapsed and how much lower the bike's going to go. This is actually positioned at the highest the motorcycle will be. Now the frame here, see how the tire goes below? You can draw a line on there so you can see how high it comes. This is as low as the motorcycle actually comes to the real world. So, and the reason I position it that way is so I can adjust back and forth. I can see where things might rub. It gives me an eye line to like make sure, like when I'm all the way up, I can look to see if my compressor is going to hit or my lines are going to hit or anything along those lines. So it just gives me a lot of extra space when I set it up like that. I know some people set it up at ride height. I like to see how low it's going to go when I'm doing them. That way it's just easier. Then everything is built up and from that. Now my point I need to figure out where to drill is I'll put this shock full extended, and I'll swing it and I'll create an arc, and then I'll collapse it and I'll bring it up to full collapse distance, and I'll create an arc. And where those two lines cross is where I'm going to drill the hole. And that way it's, so when it goes all the way up, my max height on my shock, it isn't going to freaking hurt anything on the suspension or anything like that. But at the same time, when I'm full collapsed, it's not going to smack itself into the airbox. And that's just using a little bit of science and math to figure out where they need to cross. So I'm going to get to work on the other shock after I take a little break. It's just getting a little warm, which is funny to say because it was snowy out the other day. And now it's like cruising up there in temp. I think it might hit 80 degrees today, which is crazy. All right. All right. We got the shocks actually all mounted on the shaft. So now we're getting ready to start modifying the bottom ends, and probably get ready after that to figure out where our hole goes. That was a real pain in the butt, to be completely honest. Not fun. But that was the hard part. Now we'll cut the ends. All right, so as you can see, we got the bushings out of the other ones also. And the size difference on there is a little bit. It's not much. You know, we also have a width difference. If you come down and you look down here, I'll get you a little better shot. You'll see I got to take about 1/4 1/8 off. I can't just take it off of one side though like I wanted. I got to take a little bit off of each side, so I have to be really careful when I do that. But the bushing, that's how much I got to take out of it. So it looks like a lot, but it really isn't. You know, you take out about 1/4 inch on the top edge of that, and that'll round right around. You just kind of hammer it in and hammer it in. So it shouldn't be too bad to actually size it out, but that's what's going on right now. The wife ran out to Harbor Freight to go get some new hacksaw blades to make my life easier. You don't want to add too much heat to the end of these because we don't want to mess up the hydraulic valving inside, or else I'd use a power tool, a cutoff wheel, saw, something along those lines. But instead, just going to do it the old school way, do a hacksaw, keep the heat out. We're going to have to put heat back into it because we got to split it on this end down here. So we're going to have to put heat back into it with a TIG. So we're going to do that really carefully, really slow, and make sure we're really safe when we're doing it. So that'll be at another point. That'll be about the same time we actually TIG the rod in that goes across here. So I'm going to wait for the wife, and I got a few other things I'm going to work on. All right, I want to explain like how we're actually going to be doing. This is still not the right mount, or still not sized right. But I want to show you guys how we'd actually draw the spot of where we're actually going to be drilling that shaft to put through. So when you see this, this creates an arc. Now when we create an arc right here, I'm not going to draw it on here because tomorrow I'm going to do it. But we're going to get that arc. And now when I drop it down, give me a second. And we go to max extension. We make that same arc. There's going to be a point when those two cross. Now you guys on video are actually getting to see it before I do. So you'll actually get to see it. I'll actually have to draw it on tomorrow. But where those two X's cross is exactly where I need to put that shaft. Because this is at full extension, so this is all the way down. This will be all the way up on suspension. So this is the mark, and where we were before was all the way collapsed, and we make the mark. So then that would be nothing's getting bumped under here, and not the air compressor's not hitting it full extension. So we're using the bumps on this actual shock to actually stop everything. So it really helps out how everything works. Keeps me from hurting shit and breaking shit. So we've got them like temp installed. They're just sitting on here. There's no actual weight on them. I just got them there. They're going to go further up there. But I just wanted to show you guys like where they're going to be going and how our air valves are going to be coming off. So they're going to be inside of here. We're probably going to have to take 1.5 inches, 2 inches off of this bar to make everything fit. But right now, like if I was to get it up there, you see that one over there is kind of over there, wonk wonk. So we'll shorten up that bar. We'll get everything figured out before we actually get it fully installed. But I am pretty happy with how it's sitting and how everything's working. So we are going to call it a night on that note. And tomorrow we're going to do some trimming and cutting and making those bottom bushings fit. So I love you guys. I want to go hang out with that gorgeous woman right there. And we got to eat some dinners, and it's pretty late already. So I love you, and bye.